I had so many scenarios running in my head, thinking my
Mm-hmm.
dad's going to stop talking to me.
Yeah.
He's going to cut me off from the family. He's going to erase the name from the family books.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pride Talk. And for those that may be new to us, thank you for subscribing to Pride Talk, a podcast presented by Nat Pride. Our podcast features in-depth conversations with Asian American LGBTQ plus professionals and our allies. Today, we continue our intimate and emotional conversation with Dr. Kim Liu. I'm sure you're wanting more of her captivating story. I'm your host, John Ong, and with me is co-host David Moore. Say hi, David.
Hi, John. What an amazing journey we are on with Dr. Liu, and how fortunate we are that she is so authentic and vulnerable. I feel like this in-depth conversation format really allows her experience to connect with our listeners. So, we are so grateful for our sponsor, Molson Coors. Because of their generous support, we are able to bring you this series of insightful, funny, and authentic discussions with folks from our tribe, Asian Americans within the LGBTQ plus community and our allies. So let's get back to Dr. Liu and her fascinating story. In this episode, Kim shares what it was like to come out to her father, who was ill at the time and living in Taiwan, and his heartwarming response. Let's find out how her father's love and acceptance changed her life.
But I don't think my mom, I don't know. I don't think she told my dad about things, because when I came out to him, it was a shock for him. So I don't think he knew. So it was 2014, that summer, that my dad, it was my parents' 30-year anniversary. And my dad started talking to me and my sister. And he was saying, I really miss you guys, and I wish you guys would come home. And that's strange for us, because usually my dad knows how expensive it is for us to fly over there. And the fact that he kept asking us to go home, we felt something was wrong. And so my sister and I, we flew back home. And so there was like all these things happening. My parents apparently were in the process of getting divorced. My dad was really ill, and that's why he wanted to see us, because the prognosis was not good. And that's when, it was another realization for me, because my father has always been a very family man. And for him, he always said, divorce is never an option. And you always find a way to solve the problem no matter what, and for him to want to get divorced, that was mind blowing. And for me, divorce was not an option for, in my marriage, because of my father. He always stood there about family values, and divorce is not an option, all these different things. And so I couldn't even think about, I didn't think I shouldn't get divorced, because if my dad can do it, I can do it, that sort of thing.
Right.
And so
Kim,
when I went home,
Kim, your family, your mom and dad still in Taiwan at that time, right?
Yes, they had moved back. Well, yeah, they had moved back to Taiwan at that time.
Okay.
And so they were in Taiwan. My sister and I flew to Taiwan, and then this whole thing about divorce, my parents getting divorced, happened. So my dad, my sister, and I sat down and had a conversation, and we wanted to know why my dad, after 30 years, decided to get divorced. And it was a very personal thing for him, but part of it was that he said he wanted to be happy, and the prognosis of his illness was not good. He didn't know how long he had left. He wanted whatever time he has left to be happy. And he didn't feel happy with my mom. And that was hard for him to even admit that to us. Yeah. And in that moment, I started crying, and I told my dad, I have something to tell you. And I couldn't even say it because I was crying so hard. And my dad thought I had cancer. He thought my cancer.
Yeah, because you had cancer earlier.
Yeah, I had cancer before. Yeah, so he thought my cancer came back, and he started crying too. And he said, "No, everything's gonna be okay. We're gonna make through it. Everything's fine." And I said, "No, Dad, I'm not dying." So he was very confused. He's like, "Okay, so what's going on? Whatever it is," because he never seen me cry like this. I've always been very strong, and I don't usually cry in front of my dad. Yeah, so for him to see me cry, he was really scared.
He thought something is really big.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
said he felt like something bad was happening. And I think at that time I already had a miscarriage. So it was like too many.
Mhm.
My life is so much drama. But at that at the
Oh.
time I already had the miscarriage and I was dating my ex-partner and things in my marriage were going south. And now my dad is trying to get divorced. And so I felt like I had to talk to him and know what his opinion was about the whole situation. And I told him, I said, Dad, I'm dating someone else. And he thought I was cheating. He said, okay, does your husband know? And I said, yes, he knows. He's like, okay. And he was like, he didn't know how to react. And he's like, okay, so you're dating another man? I said, no, Dad, it's not another man. He's like,
Ooh.
okay, what do you mean? I said, Dad, I'm dating another woman. And he's like, oh. And he just sat there shocked and looked at me and he's like, okay, how long have you known? And I said, well, since, I think 12 that I like women. He's like, oh, is your husband okay with it? And I'm like, in a way, but I don't know what to do. I'm dating a woman and I'm married to a man. Like, I don't want to disappoint you. And my dad said the most amazing thing. He said, I just want you to be happy. It doesn't matter if you're with a man or with a woman or with both of them or with one of them. It's like, I don't care. He said,
Yeah.
you're my daughter. I just want you to be happy. And he said, that's what you're crying about? I said, yes. It's like, oh, honey, I love you. Like, what are you
Oh.
crying about this? I thought you were dying. It's fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
wow.
all these years of me thinking my dad is not going to accept this part of me, of
Yeah.
not loving that part of me. And I couldn't tell him because I was so close to my dad and I
Yeah.
felt distancing. The moment I started realizing I
Yeah.
like women, I started distancing myself from my dad because I knew that he would know something was off,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be able to tell him. He'll know that I'm hiding something.
Yeah.
And so I kept that distance. And I started crying because I think my mom was going back into politics, and I was telling my dad my fear about having to get back in the closet, how my life was going to affect my family again, because my parents had retired when I went to college. They retired from being diplomats, and so I was afraid of, okay, I'm married to a man, I'm dating a woman, and my mom is running for like mayor of the city or whatnot, like that kind of stuff's going to go back to her. And my dad is like, that you're in the US, nobody knows who you are, don't worry about it. And I said, but yeah, I remember how it used to be when we grew up, and your job, I was so afraid of you losing your job because of me. And my dad said, if you have told me that, I would have quit.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
And that was so amazing to hear my
Mm.
dad say those words. Like, that was his way of saying, I accept you.
Mm.
I was so scared all these years of doing the
Mhm.
wrong thing and saying the wrong thing and bringing shame to the family, my dad losing his job, all this pressure. And my dad, he just fixed it with that one sentence, if I
Mm.
have known, I would have quit my job,
Wow.
and I realized I was so dumb. I mean, I didn't know any better, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking all these years of being in the closet, all these years of not being able to share with my dad, all these years because of I judged him. He didn't
Yeah.
judge me. I judged him.
True.
I thought he was going to be a certain way, that he was going to be upset at me because he got really well. He got along with my ex-husband. Thinking that he's going to be upset at me that I'm ruining my marriage for dating a woman. Like, I had all these things in the back of my head that I was making up out of my fear, not
Yeah.
because they were real.
Right. So,
And that was uh-huh.
what, that moment when you heard your dad
hmm
said those words, what were you feeling at that time? I'm sure it is something that's a milestone for your life right now.
Yeah, it was huge because at that moment when my dad said, he loves me, that he would have quit his job if he had known that that was making me miserable, that was why I was not open and authentic. And when he said, I don't care if you're in a relationship with a man or a woman, or with both of them or none of them, like, I realized that he was saying he loves me and accepts me, everything about me,
Mm.
no matter what. Because I was
Mhm.
struggling with, you know, being with two people. I was struggling with my sexuality. I was struggling with having to be in the closet, all these different things. And even like the divorce, because like when I didn't even think, let's say, because at that time I kept feeling stuck, having to make a choice and not knowing whether to be out or not. And just all these different things, my dad, with that sentence, it just made me realize that life doesn't have to be as complicated as I made it seem my whole life.
Yeah.
Um, and the one person that truly matters, my father, he
Uh-huh.
was okay with it.
Yeah.
I didn't care what my mom said. I mean, that's not true. I do care what she says. But like at
Yeah.
least one parental unit was okay
Yes.
with who I was.
Yeah.
And and he had no issue. The reaction from my mom said, "We need to sit down and find a medicine for you," And my dad, and my dad is like, "I would have quit my job if I knew." So it's
Right.
like completely different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I felt so relieved. I felt like at least I have one person in my corner,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
no matter what, it's okay.
Yeah.
No
So
matter what, he accepts me, he loves me. Because I am the one that put that no matter what, not him. I'm the one that put all those things in the back of my head. And probably perhaps of the where I grew up and the environment and, my mom's reaction really made me think that I was cut off.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad comes from such a traditional family, like the type of that we have the first Liu, we have the genealogy of the first Liu up till now, and they're very traditional. And I'm thinking like they're gonna erase my name from the books.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that. And my dad was like, no, you're my daughter. You'll always be my daughter. And I don't care what anyone says, like it's
Mm.
fine. And that was such a big relief. And I realized, what? My dad is right. As long as I'm happy, that's all that matters. And as long as I'm not hurting people in the process, that's all that matters. And
Mm.
that was it was so life changing for me.
yeah.
And I think that moment I said, that's it. I'm not hiding anymore. Because even though I was out, but I wasn't out to my family.
Yeah.
Like my dad was the last person of my immediate family that I came out to. And that was such a big relief to know that my dad was in my corner the whole time, that he supports me no matter what, how I feel, what I think of what society might say. He always has my back. And that was so powerful to know that, because I had so many scenarios running in my head,
Mm-hmm.
thinking my
hmm
dad's going to stop talking to me.
Yeah.
He's going to cut me off from the family. He's going to erase the name from the family books, like all these different things. And it was so sad for me to think that the one person I was the closest to would not be able to love me and accept me for who I am.
Mm.
And and to know that he was in my corner this whole time and I was the one freaking out, that it was just so, it felt like great relief. And I felt happy and lucky also, grateful that at least one of my parents got my back. So yeah, that was a great experience to know that.
Yeah.
It's still,
It was like your mom was looking for the medicine, but your dad had the medicine.
Yeah.
I
He
know,
had the
yeah,
thing that was able to heal you.
Yeah.
yeah. My dad's love and acceptance, it was what helped me,
Yeah.
to be able to be okay with my decision, that no matter what. And it's still a struggle sometimes, having to talk to him about things. But he, I saw him, I think this summer, and I spent a lot of time with him. And there's I'm still don't feel comfortable talking to him about relationship things, even though I wish I could, because I'm not able to talk to my mom about that. But my dad would say, he said, I'm not gay. I don't understand gay, but I understand humans and I
Yeah.
understand people's interaction with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you can tell me your struggles and I can give you my perspective about what I see from the outside.
Yeah.
And then you can decide what you want to do with that information.
Yeah.
But he said, don't feel that you cannot share with me just
Yeah.
because I'm not gay. And that was another eye-opening moment for me,
Yeah.
thinking, wow,
No, yeah. And
that
your
is
dad
really
wants to
amazing.
be part of his love is he wants to be able to share with you your a part of your life also. He doesn't want a part of your life to be cut out from him.
Yeah, exactly. And for years, he didn't know why I pulled away from him, because I was very close with him
Mm-hmm.
growing up till I started realizing about my sexuality, and I start
Yeah.
going away
Withdrew.
and not sharing and just almost cutting him off. And he didn't understand why I pulled away.
Mm.
And it was because of that, because I didn't want to disappoint him, because in his eyes, I'm this perfect child. And even though everything the society says that I'm not perfect and I don't conform and whatnot. For him, I'm perfect.
Yeah.
And I felt like that part of me would ruin that idea of me being a perfect child. I didn't want to disappoint him. Like, I'm used to disappointing my mom already, but I'm not used to disappointing my dad. And I just didn't want the one person that sees me as perfect to see me as less than. I had that thought. And so I pulled away. And for my dad, it's like, I don't understand why you're acting this way. I still want to be part of your life. You're still my child. I love you as you are. And he said, I might not understand. And it's so funny. He said something like, because he's a science person. He said, I know it's some genetic thing that happened. I don't know from my side or your mom's side. Something happened in your genes and you're gay. I understand that. It's fine. There's nothing to do about it. You are who you are. And that's kind of his way of saying that there's nothing to change about me, So it was kind of funny. But yeah, it's great that he wants to be there for me in any capacity that he can be. He's very mild, gentle. He doesn't want to impose, but he just wants me to know that if I need him, he's there.
Yeah.
Wow. It was a lot of emotions.
Yeah. I mean, so you said that the most important person for you to be out to is your father. And
Yes.
the one person whose acceptance and love that you want to hear from is your father. And you got those.
I did. I'm
That
still struggling with that. It's crazy how conditioned we are about things, because even though he says that he loves me, he accepts me, he's there for me, I'm still struggling with that idea. It's like it hasn't completely sunk in. And that's crazy. Yeah.
So, in this last episode, we talked about how people around us feel the need to fix us. How refreshing it is to hear in this episode Dr. Lu's father say, "You are who you are. There's nothing to change about you."
Yeah, it's like we discussed in the conversation. Her mother was looking for the medicine or formula to fix or solve the problem, but it was the love and acceptance from Kim's father that was the thing that she needed to begin the journey of healing. I'm sure the story has touched many people. It certainly has touched me. Please let us know by sharing your comments with us about our conversation with Dr. Lu. You can email us at pridetalk@nap.org. That's pridetalk@naaap.org. You can even call us and leave us a voice comment. Our number is 4197-PRIDE5. That's 4197-PRIDE5. And of course, you can find all this information in the show notes as well as on our website, pride.nap.org. If you enjoy candid and authentic stories like these, please subscribe to the podcast. The next episode will come to you automatically.
And another quick shout out to NAP, the National Association of Asian American Professionals, which is a nonprofit organization that cultivates and empowers Asian and Pacific Islander leaders through leadership development, professional networking, and community service. Check them out at nap.org. That's NAAP.org. And as always, we want to thank our corporate sponsor, Molson Coors, for their continued support of NAP Pride and this podcast, and for their commitment to fostering open and inclusive workplaces where all employees are valued, engaged, and inspired to be the best they can be. Please join us for our next episode where Kim will share how she came to the realization that not being authentic to herself was not only hurting her, but others as well. Join us next time as we discuss choices, expectations, anger, and forgiveness. You will not want to miss this one. Oh, and we will have an exciting announcement about our guest for Season 3, so click the subscribe button.
Until then, remember this: representation matters. So be seen, be heard, be loud, and be proud. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The opinions expressed on Pride Talk are solely those of the hosts and guests and do not represent the views or opinions of our individual employers, NAP, or our sponsors.